Man, I wanted to talk today about the idea of being alone and why I think that it's a superpower. So, I've recorded this video like 5 times because every single time I finish it, I realize there's another point I want to make. But I think that the main topic that I want to talk about as it relates to being alone is the idea of conformity and groupthink. Um, when you're spending all your times in groups and you're spending your time around other people, and you have your solid friend groups. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with having friends and stuff like that. I have friends. I wouldn't say I have many friends, to be honest with you, and I wouldn't say I contact them or talk to them or hang out with them a lot. But I do know the experience of what it's like to be in groups. Growing up, I had really, really close friend groups for a while, probably until through middle to end of freshman year of my high school. So probably till I was 13, I always had friends. I had siblings growing up that were around the same age as me, within 1 to 2 years of me. And so even just growing up, I experienced that through siblings. I always had somebody, and I always found comfort in that. But one of the things that I realized at some point was that you can't develop free thought, and you can't really learn about yourself and who you are if you're always with these other people. Now, there was this one time I was in, when I was in high school, one of my friends told me, he was like, yeah, I was at this party this weekend, and there was a group of people, and they were talking shit about you. And I was like, really? What were they saying? And he was like, they're talking about how you think you're better than everybody else because you're always alone. And on Instagram, you only follow, you don't follow any of them. And I was thinking about that, and I kind of started laughing, and I was like, I don't think anybody's better than anybody else. I think God created all man equal, so I don't think I'm better than anybody else. But the thing is, if I follow one of them on Instagram, I follow all of them on Instagram. And he was like, what do you mean by that? And I was telling him, I was like, I could be wrong, but I just feel like every single one of these people have the exact same Instagram pages. They have the same aesthetic, the same poses, the same vibes, the same captions, everything. And I guess that's just kind of the metaphor for the bigger overarching part of life, which is in life, these people look the same, they talk the same, they dress the same, they have the same opinions on anything from politics to fashion sense to music taste. Everybody groups, they always tend to conform to one ideology, right? And that's a problem, because I think humans are unique in a lot of ways. We're of the same nature, but we have the same primal instincts. But the thing is, we have individual personalities and things that make us cool in different ways. And you're never gonna realize what those aspects of you are if you're spending so much time with friends. When I got into high school, man, I started spending all my time alone. I'm talking weekends, after school, whatever. Outside of sports that I did, I was never hanging out with people, ever. Someone asked me, oh, dude, senior year, I heard that's there was a coworker of mine who was from a different country, and they were like, oh, I heard something about American school, and senior year is supposed to be super fun. What'd you do? And I was like, I think I could count on one hand the amount of times I hung out with somebody the entire year. And he was like, my coworker was like, wow, that's so sad. And I kind of sat there and thought about it. I was like, maybe it is, and maybe it was sad, but I just feel it was a good thing for me, because at an earlier age than most, I realized who I was and what my own opinions were on the things that I liked, and they weren't what everyone else did. I did a sport. I played baseball for my whole life and had all my friends in it. And the truth was, I always hated baseball. And you could ask my parents, I would cry because I hated going to these freaking games, always. And my parents were just like, why are you doing it? Why are you doing it why are you sticking with this if you don't enjoy it? And I would just always make some excuse. I don't know. But now when I think back to it, the whole reason I did it was because it became my identity, and all my friends did it, and I just wanted to be a part of that. But the truth is, I hated the sport, and to this day I hate it. I'm not trying to dog if you like baseball or whatever. It's just not my thing. And I kind of switched and pivoted. But all I'm trying to say here is, I would have never found that out if I didn't learn to spend time alone. And reject the conformity. Like you have something unique about you. Like you, the person who's watching this right now, I'm talking to you. You have something so unique about you, and that could turn into a career that can make your life so much different, and what makes people attracted to you, whatever. But it can be completely hidden if you just spend all your time in groups and conform. um Another huge aspect is the idea of like learning how to handle situations alone. It's super uncomfortable when you first spend a lot of time alone. Like first time I traveled alone was like super humbling. Like had no idea, was super nervous. But over time, more and more reps, more and more time being alone, I like kind of learned and figured out what I was made of. And there's so many people that just don't experience that. Um, I super recommend to you as the viewer of this video, man, don't be afraid to just spend a semester and just see if you can go a whole semester without talking, not talking, but just not hanging out with people, because that's all I did. And it made me stronger because of it. And this isn't to say, you shouldn't have friends or whatever. Like, I think friends are cool. I think friends are awesome. I don't have all that many friends, but the time I do spend with friends, I do enjoy. I enjoy it a lot. And it becomes a lot more valuable when you're more selective with who you hang out with and where you spend your time. And you start to realize like genuineness in people. And I think being alone, I was able to analyze things that were going on in my own life and be honest with myself. Because like if you spend every single Friday and Saturday, when you're like Friday nights when you don't have school, or Saturdays when you have nothing going on, or maybe you don't have work or whatever, when you spend all your time alone, like it's inevitable that your brain is going to ponder and start to think of things that are and what is the main content that you're going to be thinking about. It's going to be the issues in your life, because those are the most pressing. And then you can have the opportunity to analyze them and figure out, hey, is this my problem, a problem with me, or is it a problem with my environment? What is it a problem with? When you spend so much time alone, you start to learn how to problem solve and how to be honest with yourself. And it can be super beneficial. Now, I remember when I was in high school, there was a girl, and it was a Friday, one of the later periods, and she was like, turned to her friends, was like, oh my gosh, we have nothing planned for this weekend. This is going to be the first time in all of high school that we don't like hang out over a weekend. And I was like, bro, what? Like, that's crazy. Like, I'm genuinely not trying to judge, not trying to be like derogatory or anything, but she was like, I wouldn't say she was a friend of mine at all, but she was like an acquaintance. Like, we knew each other, we talked or whatever. And I think I made a joke about it at the time. I don't know what I said, but she was like, oh, you like spend all your time alone? I was like, yeah, I do, like for the most part. And that's not like a long-term goal for me. I don't want to spend my life alone, but it's allowing me to realize who I am. Like I was like, were you serious about like that you never hanged, like you never spent any time alone, like all high school? She's like, yeah. To me, that is crazy. And obviously I can't speak to the female experience. I can only speak to the male experience. I think men oftentimes are more suited to be alone, and women are more suited to be in a social environment. That's not a dog at anybody. Like, it's not a dog at men for not really being as social, or a dog at women for not being able to be alone. I think we're all capable of anything, but man, like you really need to invest in time that you can internalize and think about yourself and what it is that you need to do in life. And a big thing that I want to mention is that all the greats, man, all of them, they go through long periods of isolation. Isolation can be so positive. Like if you think of any great, like obviously people will mention, like when I think greatness, like people will be like athletes, Kobe Bryant, Michael Jordan. I think of like Kanye West, like the geniuses, the people that are reach the highest levels in their career and business, like Mark Cuban, whoever it may be. And anytime you ask these people, like they'll get interviewed, they'll be like, I had to believe in myself and spend time alone to figure out who I was and to reach the next level. And it's like, you're never gonna reach the next level if you're hanging out with all these people in your hometown who are just like their parents, and every single one of them amounted to, like, it sounds shitty, but they amounted to nothing. Like, what did they do in their life? They didn't do anything great. Like, yeah, there's honor in building families, stuff like that for sure. I'm not dogging that, but let's be honest, they didn't go on to do anything, and none of your friends are going to go on to do anything. Just think about your hometown. I bet a lot of money that there's never been someone from your hometown, unless you're from like a city, that's gone on to do anything super transformative to society, or like had some sort of big breakthrough, or like did something amazing. And the reason is because everybody's spending time together, and then everyone like automatically will like bring people down. Because if you want to be the exception, you want to be the 1%, not even 1%, 0.001%. If you want to be that person, how are you ever going to get there when you're hanging out with a bunch of random people from your hometown? Like, you think that by chance, you and like the 5-6 friends that you have, you all just magically had like became like the talented group of people, and you all just magically attracted to one another and became like friends and all, like went to the top? Like, no, that's super rare, like super rare. Like, I've almost never heard of like a friend group of that's gone from like some random hometown to like fame, unless it's like, you know, maybe a band or something like Nirvana. Like, it's not gonna happen. And the reason is because of groupthink and conformity. And the other thing is, like, you're naturally gonna pull, like, people will say, when you're around a lot of good people, like, you're gonna be lifted up. It's true. But as a whole, you're never really gonna reach the top echelon, because the chances that a group of 5 people, every single one of them is gonna have the capability of doing that is so slim. And it's like you're only as good as your weakest link. So like, if there's like a few people in that group that aren't like really on that level, which is like probably a really good chance. And I don't like saying have the ability, because I think anybody has the ability to reach the highest levels, but it's like, what are they willing to put in the work? Are they willing to do this or that? And if you're spending time in groups, it's not going to happen. It's just the truth. So yeah, invest in yourself, spend time alone, figure out who you are, learn how to free think and draw your own conclusions on things. And really, nothing's off limits, man, when you're alone. You could think of like you could have the most controversial hot take ever, and it could be about like the most ridiculous thing ever, but like, guess what? You're not going to get judged by anybody, because it's just you. And, you know, maybe you could laugh at yourself. Like, I laugh at myself sometimes. I'm like, it's crazy that you thought that. But, you know, being able to be honest with myself is such an important part of that. And it's pretty hard when you're around a bunch of yes men to do this. And maybe you don't have yes men. Maybe it's people that influence you in a more structural way, or challenge you. But all that being said, if you want to be great, if you want to achieve things in life, you have to go through a period of time alone. It's essentially inevitable. So just wanted to make a video on that. But yeah.